I am thinking of Neal, and it's great that we're all here celebrating him. But I have to admit that my poems really don't relate, on the surface anyway, to Neal, or even Denver. But I do feel a connection to him. I was friends with other Beats, with Allen Ginsberg and Burroughs and Gregory Corso. I knew them all. And my husband, through my husband, Ed Dorn, who, although he never met Neal, did and really, really liked Jack Kerouac. So all I can say is that I'm going to dedicate my poems to Neal. I just got a couple of poems. This is called The Revenge of Novaya Zemlya. Novaya Zemlya is an archipelago in the Arctic Ocean. It literally means new land. Novaya Zemlya, the revenge of Novaya Zemlya. Home of polar bears and seals, it used to have a small population of Samoyeds who subsisted on hunting them and herding reindeer until they were removed during the Cold War, and it became a site for Soviet nuclear tests. Home in 1961 to the biggest bomb blast ever, the 60 megaton Tsar Bomba, with a mushroom cloud 40 miles high. Nowadays, tourists and cruise ships travel through the archipelago, just as they do in Alaska, to see magnificent glaciers and mountains. The main settlement, Belushya Guba, is mostly a military base with a population of 2,000, and nothing much happening until a year ago, when a mass invasion of polar bears terrorized the town. Over 50 were reported to be parading through houses and playgrounds, staring down dogs and feeding on garbage. Driven inland by the thinning Arctic ice and starved of their diet of seals, the bears are now aggressively hunting humans to satisfy their need for high-fat prey, without which they become emaciated and die. Global warming is decimating the population of polar bears, and they are fighting back. This is this all right, the mic? A found rumination. When you talk like that, people say you're crazy. After all, it's just a piece of dead tissue. Horror movies convey just that hopelessness, as though something alive can be eaten whole and then go on growing. No, I don't know what this is about. Just some lines I found on the desktop, which must have meant more than nonsense at the time and now become an exquisite corpse without a plot, forced to go on finding a hidden theme as it marks time, trying to fit the framework of a sonnet, even as it stumbles awkwardly along. Nothing can save it from being abstract, unless it's the terror of Trump. I remember that Stan Brackage took my husband Ed Dorn and I up to Central City to meet Angelo Benedetti. And it was pretty impressive, his studio. Now, I'm going to read this in honor, and again, it's not Neal. It's my husband, Ed Dorn, who's the 50th anniversary of his mock epic Gunslinger came out. And so this is really a dream. It's called A Visitation from Gunslinger, although the Gunslinger is really Ed Dorn. And I should say, for those of you, many of you probably don't know the poem, it's a long and mock epic poem about the semi-dios gunslinger, and starts, I met in Messiah the cautious gunslinger of impeccable personal smoothness and slender leather-encased hands folded casually to make his knock. And the cast of characters include Lil, the madam, a horse called Claude Heidegger, who rolls and smokes big bombers with his hooves, the poet who plays the lute and sings many of the songs throughout the epic, and they are riding in a driverless stagecoach to Vegas in search of Howard Hughes. They don't actually get there. The fourth book of this epic, they end up in Four Corners. And on the way, they pick up a hitchhiker, Cool Everything, with his batch of LSD. And when the narrator, I, dies, Cool Everything puts all of his LSD batch into I to keep him alive. And he turns into the secretary of Parmenides. Anyway, other characters join in, and you get the idea. So, A Visitation from Gunslinger. I hadn't seen or heard from Ed in months, thought he was dead. But one night he dropped by the house to say hello. Casually, didn't knock. Traveling through with friends, he said. I can't stay long. We're heading north. Everyone's waiting for me. Who's everyone? I asked. Where have you been? You could have called at least to let me know you were alive. I've been tearing my guts out, grieving, utterly lost without you. A brief flash of pity swept across his brow. But then he hugged me. But when he hugged me, I didn't feel his arms. He turned away, walked toward the window. I'm sorry, he said. There was no time, no phone. And now I must take my leave. We have many miles to cover ere sundown. And then he was gone, or I woke up, angry he'd forgotten me, heartbroken. He died in my arms in our bed. Two men carried his stiff body down the stairs on a stretcher in what looked like a giant garbage bag. But in my dream, or on another plane, he'd hitched a ride on the driverless stagecoach with the singer and Lil, the horse called Heidegger, the secretary to Parmenides, Dr. Flamboyant, and Cool Everything. I think that's all I'm going to read. Thank you.